Park Ji-ho sat in his small apartment in Seoul, staring at his computer screen. The same lines of code he had been working on for 3 hours still made no sense. He pushed back from his desk and rubbed his tired eyes. Working from home had seemed like a good idea when he started at the tech company 6 months ago. Now he felt like a prisoner in his own space. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of his computer and the distant sounds of traffic below. His parents had been calling less lately, probably tired of asking when he would find a girlfriend or get a better job. His friends were all busy with their own lives, getting married or having children. At 28, Ji-ho felt stuck in a routine that seemed to have no end. He walked to his kitchen and opened the refrigerator. The same sad contents stared back at him. Leftover chicken from 2 days ago, some wilted vegetables, and 3 bottles of beer. He grabbed a beer and returned to his living room, where he collapsed onto his old couch. The television remote sat on the coffee table next to a pile of mail he had been ignoring. Bills, advertisements, and something that looked like a package. He picked up the small box with mild curiosity. The return address was from some company called G&Track Labs. He had no memory of ordering anything from them. Then he remembered. 3 weeks ago, during one of his particularly boring evenings, he had seen an advertisement online for a DNA ancestry kit. The ad promised to reveal his family history and connect him with distant relatives around the world. In a moment of impulse, probably influenced by the beer he had been drinking, he had ordered one. The kit was simple enough. A plastic tube, some instructions, and a prepaid envelope. All he had to do was spit into the tube, seal it, and mail it back. The results would be available online in a few weeks. He had done it immediately, then forgotten about it completely. Now, apparently, his results were ready. Ji-ho opened his laptop and navigated to the G&Track website. He entered his kit number and password, expecting to see a colorful chart showing he was mostly Korean, with maybe some Chinese or Japanese mixed. Instead, the page loaded with a message that made him frown. Your results are being processed by our specialized team. Please wait for further contact. That seemed odd. Every other DNA kit he had heard about gave instant results. Why was his taking longer? He closed the laptop and went back to his beer. Outside his window, Seoul continued its endless activity. Neon signs flickered to life as evening approached. People hurried along the sidewalks below, all heading somewhere important. Ji-ho envied them their purpose. The next morning started like any other. Coffee, shower, and another day of debugging code that someone else had written poorly. He was halfway through his second cup of coffee when someone knocked on his door. Ji-ho almost never had visitors. His apartment building had a security system that required guests to be announced by the front desk. Nobody had called. He looked through the peephole and saw a woman in a dark suit standing in the hallway. She looked professional, maybe a government worker or insurance salesperson. He opened the door with the chain still attached. Can I help you? The woman held up an identification card. Park Ji-ho. I'm Kim Moran from the Genetic Research Division. We need to talk about your recent DNA test. Genetic Research Division of what? Ji-ho asked, confused. May I come in? This is not a conversation for the hallway. Something in her tone made Ji-ho nervous. He closed the door, removed the chain, and opened it again. Kim Moran stepped inside and looked around his apartment with the practiced eye of someone who noticed everything. Please sit down, she said, as if she owned the place. Ji-ho sat on his couch while she remained standing. She was maybe 40 years old, with short black hair and eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Her suit looked expensive, and she carried herself like someone used to being in charge. Your DNA sample triggered several alerts in our monitoring systems. She began without any small talk. We need to verify some information. What kind of alerts? And what monitoring systems? I just wanted to know if I had any interesting ancestors. Kim Moran pulled out a tablet and showed him a complex chart filled with genetic markers and percentages. To Ji-ho, it looked like random numbers and letters. According to these results, you are not entirely human. Ji-ho stared at her. Excuse me? Your genetic makeup includes markers that do not exist in normal human DNA. These markers match patterns we have on file for the Velheri species. The what species? The Velhari, an ancient civilization that traveled between stars millions of years ago. They visited many worlds, including Earth, and occasionally interbred with local populations. Jiho felt dizzy. Are you telling me I'm part alien? According to your genetic profile, your great-grandmother carried Velhari DNA. Her name was Lee Soman, correct? Yes, but she was just a farmer. She lived in a small village her whole life. Kim Moran showed him another screen on her tablet. This one displayed what looked like historical records, but written in symbols he had never seen before. Lee Soman was not a farmer. She was a member of the Velhari noble class who crash-landed on Earth in 1923. She chose to hide among humans rather than signal for rescue. This is crazy. You're talking about space aliens and crashed ships? My great-grandmother grew rice and raised chickens. She also possessed advanced knowledge of genetics, weather patterns, and soil composition that helped her village survive several famines. The local records describe her as having an unusual ability to predict weather and plant diseases. Jiho thought about the stories his grandfather had told him about. Lee Soman. She had indeed been known for her uncanny ability to know when storms were coming and which crops would fail. The family had always attributed it to experience and wisdom. Even if this is true, what does it matter now? She died 50 years ago. Kim Moran put away her tablet and looked directly at him. It matters because your specific genetic sequence indicates you are not just part Velhari. You are the heir to the Velhari throne. The room seemed to spin around Jiho. Throne, the Velhari, are one of the founding species of the Galactic Confederation. They have been without a ruler for 300 years because no suitable heir could be found. Your DNA changes everything. Galactic Confederation. The organization that governs relations between intelligent species across this section of the galaxy. Earth has been under their protection for decades, though most humans are unaware of this. Jiho stood up and walked to his window. The normal city view outside suddenly seemed less real than the impossible conversation happening behind him. Why should I believe any of this? Because tomorrow, representatives from 7 different worlds will arrive to meet you. Because your life as a simple programmer and soul is about to end. And because you have responsibilities that extend far beyond this planet, Jiho turned back to face her. Kim Moran's expression was serious, but not unkind. What if I don't want any of this? What if I just want to keep living my normal life? I'm afraid that's no longer an option. Too many people across the galaxy know about you now. But there are benefits to your situation, as well as responsibilities, such as, you have a daughter? The words hit Jiho like a physical blow. What? Name is Choi Yuna. She's 4 years old and currently living on a mining colony 300 light years from here. Her mother is Commander Shinhagi of the Terran Colonial Fleet. Jiho sat down heavily. I don't have a daughter. I've never even been off Earth. The child's mother had a brief relationship with someone she believed was human during a shore leave 5 years ago. That someone was actually a Velhari diplomat who was unaware of his own genetic heritage, much like yourself. That's impossible. DNA doesn't lie. Park Jiho. You are the father of a half-Velhari child who is currently the subject of an interstellar custody dispute. Multiple governments want control of her because of what she represents. Jiho put his head in his hands. When he had spit into that tube 3 weeks ago, he had been bored and curious about his ancestry. Now he was apparently an alien prince with a daughter he had never met. What happens now? Now you learn who you really are, and you decide what kind of father and leader you want to be. Outside his window, Seoul continued its normal rhythm. But for Park Jiho, normal had just ended forever. Jiho barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Kim Moran's serious face, telling him about daughters and galactic thrones. When morning came, he felt like he had been hit by a truck. His doorbell rang at exactly 8 o'clock. This time, when he looked through the peephole, he saw 3 people waiting in the hallway. Kim Moran was there, along with 2 others he did not recognize. One was a tall man in a military uniform covered with patches and symbols. The other was a woman with strange silver hair that seemed to shine with its own light. Time for the next phase, Kim Moran said when he opened the door. The military man stepped forward and saluted. Park Jiho, I am Colonel Han Seochin of Earth Defense Command. This is Ambassador Laura Thel of the Galactic Confederation Child Welfare Division. The silver-haired woman smiled, but her eyes remained cold. We are here to discuss your daughter. They moved into his living room like they owned it. Colonel, Han set up some kind of device on Jiho's coffee table while Ambassador Laura Thel activated what looked like a portable computer made of crystal. Before we show you anything, you need to understand the situation, Kim Moran said. Your daughter is not just any child. She is the first documented offspring of Velhari royal blood in over 3 centuries. What does that mean exactly? Jiho asked. Ambassador Laura Thel touched her crystal device. And suddenly, a 3-dimensional image appeared in the middle of the room. It showed a little girl with black hair and bright eyes playing with some kind of floating toys. This is Choi, Yuna, the ambassador said. She lives on mining colony Kepler 4, for to be with her mother, Commander Shinhei Hagi. Jiho stared at the hologram. The little girl looked like any normal 4-year-old, except for her eyes. They held an intelligence that seemed too old for her age. She looks human, he said quietly. She is half human, Colonel Han replied. But her Velhari genetics are becoming more active as she grows. Watch this. The hologram changed to show the same little girl sitting at a table with several adults around her. One of them was holding up cards with symbols on them while Yuna had her eyes closed. Triangle, the little girl said without opening her eyes. The adult flipped the card. Showed a triangle. Blue circle, Yuna said next. Another correct answer? Star with 6 points. Right again. She has telepathic abilities, Ambassador Laura Thel explained. And they are growing stronger every day. Yesterday, she managed to communicate mentally with someone over 50 kilometers away. Jiho felt a strange mix of pride and fear. Is that normal for Velhari children? Not at her age, Kim Moran said. Most Velhari do not develop telepathy until they are teenagers. Yuna is exceptional. The hologram changed again to show a woman in a military uniform. She had short brown hair and looked tired, but determined. Even through the hologram, Jiho could see she was beautiful. This is Commander Shinhiji, Colonel. Han said, she is Yuna's mother and one of our best colonial fleet officers. She does not know about you, Ambassador Laura Thel added. Yi believes Yuna's father was a human diplomat who died in a transport accident. Why did you tell her that? Because the truth would have complicated things. Commander Shin has high-level security clearance. If she had known she was involved with an alien, even unknowingly, it could have ended her career. Jiho studied the woman in the hologram. Something about her face seemed familiar, though he was certain he had never met her. When did we meet? When did she meet the other me? 5 years ago, Commander Shin was on shore leave in Busan. She met someone at a conference on interstellar trade regulations. They spent 3 days together before he had to leave for another assignment, and I was there. Not you exactly, Kim, Moran said carefully. Your genetic profile matches that of Carlo Veth, a Velhari diplomatic attach, who was assigned to Earth during that time. He looked human, and believed he was human due to memory conditioning done by his handlers. Memory conditioning? A process used to help Velhari agents blend in with local populations. Carlo Veth had false memories of being born and raised on a human colony world. He genuinely believed his cover story. Jiho's head was spinning again, so I have memories of being someone else. No. You are genetically identical to Carlo Veth, but you are not the same person. Think of it as if you had an identical twin who lived a different life. The hologram changed back to show little Yuna, this time sitting alone in what looked like a bedroom. She was talking to empty air, but her lips were moving as if she was having a conversation. Who is she talking to? Jiho asked. We do not know, Ambassador Laura Thel said with obvious concern. She claims she has invisible friends who tell her things about the future. Yesterday, she warned the colony administrators about an equipment failure 12 hours before it happened. She can see the future. Possibly. Precognitive abilities are rare, but not unknown among Velhari royalty. Combined with her telepathy, she is becoming quite powerful for such a young child. Colonel Han leaned forward. This is why we have a problem 3. Separate governments are claiming custody of Yuna 3. Earth wants her because she was born to a human mother and could be valuable for our defense programs. The Valhari High Council wants her because she carries royal blood and could potentially rule their people. And the Galactic Confederation wants her because her abilities might be dangerous if not properly controlled. Jiho looked at the hologram of his daughter again. She was now playing with blocks that seemed to be moving by themselves. What does her mother want? Commander Shin wants to keep Yuna with her and raise her normally, Kim Moran said. But that may not be possible anymore. Why not? Ambassador Laura Thel touched her device, and the hologram changed to show what looked like a courtroom filled with beings from different species. Some looked almost human, while others were completely alien, because Yuna's existence has political implications across the galaxy. The Valhari have been without a ruling family for 3 centuries. Many species in the Confederation have been waiting for a legitimate heir to emerge. But she is just a little girl. A little girl who could inherit control of the most advanced technology in the galaxy, Colonel Han said grimly. The Valhari may be peaceful now, but their weapons and ships are still far beyond anything the rest of us possess. Jiho stood up and walked to his window again. Below, people were going about their normal lives, completely unaware that somewhere far away, his daughter was at the center of an interstellar political crisis. What happens if I do nothing? He asked. The Galactic Confederation will eventually take custody of Yuna and place her in a secure facility where she can be studied and trained, Ambassador Laura Thel said. Commander Shin will have no say in the matter, and if I get involved, then you have to prove you are fit to be both a father and a potential galactic leader, Kim Moran replied. The Confederation has agreed to a series of tests. Pass them, and you can claim custody of your daughter. Fail them, and she disappears into their system forever. What kind of tests? Tests of judgment, leadership, and parental fitness. Would also have to demonstrate that you can handle the political responsibilities that come with Valhari royal blood. Jiho turned back to face them. The hologram still showed Yuna playing with her floating blocks. She looked so small and innocent. I agreed to these tests. What happens to her mother? Commander Shin would remain part of Yuna's life, Colonel Han said. But she would have to accept that her daughter is not entirely human and never will be. Has anyone asked Yuna what she wants? The 3 adults exchanged glances. Ambassador. Laura Thel looked uncomfortable. She is only 4 years old. Children her age are not considered capable of making such decisions. But she can read minds and predict the future. That is different. Those are abilities, not wisdom. Jiho looked at the hologram one more time. As he watched, Yuna suddenly stopped playing and looked directly at him, as if she could see him through the projection. Hello, Papa, she said clearly. I have been waiting for you. The adults in the room went silent. Ambassador Laura Thel quickly shut off the hologram. That should not be possible, she whispered. But it just happened, Jiho said. Kim Moran stood up. Park Jiho, do you accept the challenge? Will you take the tests to prove your fitness as a father and leader? Jiho thought about his quiet, boring life in Seoul. Then he thought about a little. Girl on a distant world who somehow knew he existed? When do we start? 3 days later, Jiho found himself standing in what looked like the most expensive hotel room he had ever seen. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that changed colors with the light. The furniture seemed to float slightly above the floor. Kim Moran had brought him to a building in downtown Seoul that looked ordinary from the outside, but was apparently a secret diplomatic facility. This is where you will meet your potential bride, she said, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time. Still cannot believe this is happening, Jiho muttered. Last week I was debugging websites. Now I am meeting an alien princess for an arranged marriage. Princess Chen Nari of the Centauri Alliance, Kim Moran corrected. And she is not entirely alien. The Centauri are descendants of humans who left Earth thousands of years ago. The door opened, and a man in an elaborate blue uniform stepped. Inside, he was tall and distinguished-looking, with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Park Jiho, the man said with a slight bow. I am Ambassador Kong Doyan of the Centauri Alliance. I bring greetings from Princess Nari. Is she here? Jiho asked nervously. She's preparing for the meeting. First, we must discuss the terms of the arrangement. Ambassador Kong produced a tablet that was even more advanced than the ones Jiho had seen before. Words appeared in the air above it, written in Korean, but occasionally shifting to other languages he did not recognize. The marriage between yourself and Princess Nari would unite two of the most important bloodlines in the galaxy. The ambassador began. Your Velhari heritage combined with her Centauri royal blood would create a political alliance that could bring peace to 3 star systems that have been at war for 2 centuries. What if we do not like each other? Jiho asked. Personal feelings are secondary to political necessity, Ambassador Kong replied. However, the princess specifically requested to meet you before any final decisions are made. She is not entirely traditional in her thinking. The door opened again, and Jiho forgot how to breathe. Princess Chen Nari was nothing like what he had expected. She was about his age, with long black hair that had streaks of silver running through it. Her eyes were dark brown but seemed to hold flecks of gold. She wore a simple white dress that somehow looked both elegant and practical. So you are the programmer who accidentally became royalty, she said in perfect Korean, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. And you are the princess who studies alien biology, Jiho replied, remembering what Kim Moran had told him about her education. Among other things, she walked to the floating chair nearest to him and sat down. I also pilot starships, speak 12 languages, and hold a black belt in 3 different martial arts. Impressive. My parents believe in thorough education. What about you? Besides writing computer code and spitting in tubes, what do you do? Despite his nervousness, Jiho found himself laughing. Not much, apparently. I'm probably the least qualified person in galactic history to be in this situation, Nari said. Qualified people are boring. Ambassador Kong cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss the political benefits of this union. Later, Nari said without taking her eyes off Jiho. First, I want to hear about his daughter. For the next hour, Jiho found himself telling Princess Nari about Yuna, about his confusion over suddenly becoming a father, and about his fears that he would not be good enough to protect her. Nari listened carefully, asking questions that showed she understood the complexity of his situation. You love her already? Nari observed, even though you have never met her. Is that strange? It is human. My people tend to be more analytical about relationships. We form attachments based on logic and compatibility. But humans form bonds based on emotion and instinct. Which way is better? I am still deciding. Nari stood up and walked to the crystal wall, which showed a view of Seoul's skyline. My parents arranged this marriage because they believe it will prevent a war between the HFY, Dracona's Empire, and the Confederation. They are probably right, but I have spent my life studying different species and their cultures. I wanted to marry someone I chose, not someone chosen for me by political necessity. Jiho joined her at the window. What if we could make it both? What do you mean? What if we got to know each other first? What if we tried to actually like each other before we worry about preventing wars? Nari turned to look at him. You would want that? Even knowing that our marriage is necessary regardless of our personal feelings? I would rather go into this with a friend than a stranger. If we discover we cannot stand each other, then we will have to figure out how to be married to someone we cannot stand. But at least we will know what we are getting into. The first time since she had entered the room, Nari's formal composure cracked slightly. She almost smiled. You are not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone who would either be completely overwhelmed by the situation, or someone who would try to take charge and prove how important he was. You are neither. I am definitely overwhelmed. I just do not see how pretending otherwise would help. Anyone? Ambassador Kong stepped forward. Your Highness, we do have other matters to discuss, such as the Draconis Empire has been making increasingly aggressive moves since news of Park Jiho's bloodline became known. They see this as an opportunity to destabilize the Confederation. Kim Miran activated her tablet, showing a star map with several areas marked in red. 3 Draconis fleets have moved to positions near Confederation space in the past week. They are claiming it is for military exercises, but our intelligence suggests otherwise. They think a human with no training cannot handle galactic leadership, Nari said. They want to provoke a crisis that will prove humans are unfit for positions of authority. Are they wrong? Jiho asked. That depends entirely on you, Ambassador Kong replied. Your first test as a potential leader is happening sooner than we planned. What do you mean? Kim Moran's tablet chimed with an urgent message. She read it quickly, and her face went pale. The mining colony where your daughter lives is having an emergency. Their primary life support system has failed, and they have less than 72 hours of breathable air remaining. How many people are on the colony? Jiho asked. 50,000, including about 3,000 children. What is the Confederation doing about it? They're debating proper rescue procedures. The Velhari Council wants to send their ships, but only if they are guaranteed control over any Velhari citizens rescued. Earth wants to handle it through normal colonial fleet channels. The Centauri Alliance is offering to help but wants assurances. About political neutrality? And while they are debating, people are dying, Jiho said. Potentially, yes. Jiho looked at Princess Nari. What would you do? I would ignore the politics and save the people, she said immediately. But I am not. The one being tested for fitness to rule. Neither am I, apparently. I am being tested for fitness to be a father. Kim Moran frowned. What do you mean? My daughter is on that colony. Whatever else happens, I am not going to let her suffocate while politicians argue about jurisdiction. Ambassador. Kong stepped forward. Park Jiho. If you act without proper authorization, you could create an interstellar incident. If I do not act, my daughter could die. Which do you think matters more to me? Nari moved closer to him. If you do this, you will need help. The kind of help that requires trust between partners. Are you offering? I'm offering to find out if we can work together under pressure. Consider it an unconventional first date. Despite everything, Jiho found himself smiling. Princess, I think this might be the beginning of a very strange friendship. Call me Nari, and strange friendships are often the strongest ones. Kim Miran looked between them with obvious concern. You cannot be serious about this. I am completely serious, Jiho said. How long do we have to reach the colony? With the fastest ship available, about 60 hours. Then we better get started. As alarms began sounding throughout the diplomatic facility, Jiho realized that his quiet life in Seoul was not just over. It had been completely obliterated. But looking at Nari's determined expression and thinking about Yuna waiting for rescue, he discovered that he did not mind as much as he had expected. Some things, he thought, were worth the chaos. Jiho had never been in a spaceship before. The Centauri vessel that Princess Nari piloted looked like a silver arrow from the outside. But inside it felt more like a luxury car with too many buttons. Every surface displayed information in languages he could not read, and the chairs seemed to adjust themselves to his body without him asking. First time off Earth? Nari asked from the pilot's seat. Her hands moved across controls that appeared and disappeared as she touched them. First time in anything that flies, Jiho admitted. Through the view screen, he could see Earth shrinking behind them. Seoul was just a tiny dot of light on the dark side of the planet. You are handling it well. Most people throw up during their first jump to hyperspace. When does that happen? Now? The stars outside suddenly stretched into lines of light, and Jiho felt like someone had turned his stomach inside out. When his vision cleared a few seconds later, the stars looked completely different. We are now traveling faster than light, Nari explained. At this speed, we can reach the mining colony in 58 hours. Kimaran, who was sitting behind them looking slightly green, activated her communication device. I am receiving updates from the colony. Situation is worse than we thought. Holographic display appeared in front of them, showing a three-dimensional map of the mining colony. It looked like a collection of connected domes built on the surface of a rocky planet. The main air recycling plant had a complete breakdown, Kim Moran continued. They have backup systems, but those are only designed to last 48 hours for the current population. What about evacuation? Jiho asked. There are not enough ships in the system to evacuate 50,000 people. The nearest fleet is 4 days away. Nari studied the colony map. What about the mining equipment? Those operations usually have their own air recycling systems. Good thinking, Kim, Moran said, checking her data. There are 3 separate mining complexes each, with independent life support, but they are only designed for about 500 people each. So we could save 1,500 people while 48,000 die, Jiho said grimly.
Unless we can fix the main system?
Nari replied. Do we know what caused the breakdown? Kim Miran pulled up more data. According to the colony's chief engineer, it was a cascade failure. The primary processor overheated, which damaged the backup processor, which overloaded the tertiary systems. The whole network crashed. Can it be repaired? Not with the parts they have available. They would need replacement components that are only manufactured on 3 worlds, none of which are closer than 2 weeks away. Jiho leaned back in his chair and thought. This was exactly the kind of problem he had dealt with as a programmer, except instead of fixing crashed software, he was trying to fix crashed life support systems. What if we do not fix it? He said suddenly. Mean, Nari asked. What if instead of repairing the existing system, we build a new one using whatever resources are available? Kim Moran looked confused. Build a new air recycling system in less than 2 days? That is impossible, not from scratch. But what if we connect all the smaller systems together? The mining equipment, the backup systems, maybe even the life support from any ships in the area? Nari's eyes lit up. Distributed network instead of a centralized system. Exactly. In programming, when a main server crashes, you can sometimes keep a network running by connecting all the smaller computers together. But the different systems were never designed to work together, Kim Moran protested. They use different interfaces, different power sources, different processing protocols. Then we make them compatible, Jiho said. We build bridges between the systems, reroute the data flows, and create new control pathways. Nari was already pulling up technical specifications on her display. It would require a lot of manual rewiring and some very creative engineering. It would also require someone who understands both the technology and the people well enough. To coordinate the work, Kim Moran added, someone like Commander Shin Heiaji, Jiho asked. You want to work with your daughter's mother, whom you have never met, to save a colony using a plan that has never been tried before? Do you have a better idea? Kim Moran was quiet for a moment. Then she activated her communication system. I am sending a message to the colony now. 20 minutes later, a hologram appeared in the ship, showing a woman in a worn military uniform. Commander Shin Heiaji looked exactly like her pictures, except more tired and more worried. Must be Park Jiho, she said, without any greeting. I hear you think you can save my colony with spare parts and imagination. I think we can save our daughter's colony, Jiho corrected gently. Heiaji's expression softened slightly. She talks about you, you know. She says her papa is coming to help everyone breathe. She knows I am coming. She's been telling everyone. For 2 days that her papa would fix the air machines. Most people thought it was just childish fantasy. Is she all right? She's fine for now. The children are in the safest section of the colony, with the best air reserves. But that will not last much longer. Nari leaned into the hologram's range. Commander, I am Princess Nari of the Centauri Alliance. We need to know exactly what resources you have available. The next 3 hours, they worked together to create a plan. Hyugi knew every system on the colony. Nari understood the technical requirements for connecting different technologies. And Jiho coordinated the overall approach using methods he had learned from managing complex software projects. The plan they developed was complicated but possible. They would connect the mining equipment to the backup systems using temporary power cables. The mining computers would handle air processing for the industrial sections while the backup systems managed the residential areas. Ship life support systems would supplement both networks during peak demand. This is insane, Hyagi said when they finished. We are basically rebuilding the colony's entire infrastructure in 36 hours.
Like about 500 people.
Who have no experience working together on anything this complex, Nari added. But it could work, Jiho said. If everyone follows the plan, and we do not run into any major surprises. What about the Confederation authorities? Kim Moran asked. They are not going to approve of this unauthorized rescue operation. We do not ask for approval, Jiho replied. Ask for forgiveness afterward. A new voice came through the communication system. This is Admiral Chen Wei-Shang of the Confederation Fleet. Park Jiho, you are operating outside of proper authority. Admiral, with respect, proper authority is taking too long, Jiho answered. People are going to die while committees debate jurisdiction. If your plan fails, more people could die than if we wait for proper rescue ships. If we wait for proper rescue ships, everyone will definitely die. If we try this plan, some people might die. Prefer might too, definitely. There was a long pause. Then Admiral Chen said, You have 34 hours before I am forced to intervene for political reasons. Make them count. Mining colony, Jiho could see it through the view screen. It looked small and fragile against the dark surface of the planet below. Somewhere in those domes was his daughter, waiting for him to keep a promise he had never made. Are you ready for this? Nari asked, as she prepared to dock their ship. No, Jiho said honestly, but I am going to do it anyway. Hayagi's voice said through the communicator, is the most human thing anyone has said all day. Is that good or bad? With humans, Nari said, smiling, it is usually both. As their ship connected to the colony's docking bay, Jiho realized that his old life had not just ended. It had been replaced by something he never could have imagined. And for the first time since this whole adventure began, he was not afraid of what came next. He was excited. Jiho's plan worked. It took 32 hours of non-stop work, with everyone on the colony helping to connect cables and reprogram systems. But they managed to create a working air recycling network just 4 hours before the backup systems would have failed completely. The moment the new system came online and fresh air began flowing through the colony, Jiho finally got to meet his daughter. Yuna was smaller than he had expected, but her eyes held the same ancient intelligence he had seen in the hologram. She walked up to him in the colony's main corridor, took his hand without saying anything, and looked up at him with a serious expression. You fixed the breathing machines, she said simply. We all did, Jiho replied, kneeling down to her level. Your mama helped a lot, I know. I could hear her thoughts when she was working. She was scared but pretending not to be. Commander Hyoji approached them, looking exhausted but relieved. Yuna, remember what we talked about regarding reading? People's minds without permission? Sorry, Mama. Yuna turned back to Jiho. Are you really my papa? Yes, I am. Good. I have been waiting to meet you for a long time. You have only known about me for a few days. I have been dreaming about you for months. In my dreams, you always came when people needed help. Jiho felt a strange mixture of pride and responsibility settling over him. This little girl had somehow known he would come before he even knew she existed. Their reunion was interrupted by alarms throughout the colony. Commander Hyoji immediately activated her communication device. This is Colony Control. Report. Commander, we have 15 ships approaching from the outer system. They are not responding to communication requests, and their weapons are powered. Princess Nari, who had been helping with the final system connections, joined them quickly. That will be the Dracona's empire. They have been waiting for an opportunity like this. An opportunity for what? Jiho asked. To prove that humans cannot handle galactic leadership responsibilities, Kim Moran said, appearing beside them with her tablet displaying tactical information. If they can create a crisis while you are here, they can argue that your involvement made things worse. But we just saved the colony, which is exactly why they have to act now. Your success makes their argument weaker. Commander Hyoji was already moving toward the colony's command center. All civilian personnel to emergency shelters, defense teams to positions. What kind of defenses does a mining colony have? Nari asked. Not much. Few armed shuttles and some mining lasers that could be used as weapons. We were never designed to fight off a military attack. Jiho looked down at Yuna, who was still holding his hand. What do you see in the future? What happens next? The little girl closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with a worried expression. Fire in the sky. But also many friends coming to help. What friends? Ships from different worlds. They come because they heard what Papa did to save everyone. Kim Moran checked her tablet. She might be right. I am receiving messages from several colonies and nearby systems. Word has spread about the rescue operation, and people are impressed. Impressed enough to help fight the Draconis. We are about to find out. At the command center they could. See the approaching Draconis ships on the main display? 15 vessels, each larger than anything the colony could field. Commander Hiyagi was coordinating defenses, but everyone knew they could not win a direct fight. "This is Commander Vactor of the Draconis Empire," a harsh voice announced over the communication system. "We demand the immediate surrender of the human calling himself Velhari royalty. He will be taken into custody for proper evaluation of his claims." "This is Park Jiho," he replied, taking the communication device from Hiyagi. "I am not surrendering to anyone. Then you will watch this colony burn as proof of human incompetence." "Actually," a new voice interrupted, "he will watch you retreat as proof of Draconis cowardice." On the display, new ships began appearing. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. They came from every direction, ships of different sizes and designs that Jiho had never seen before. "This is Captain Liu of the merchant vessel Golden Dragon," one voice announced. "We stand with the human who saved Kepler Colony." "This is the mining ship Rock Crusher from Tau Ceti," another voice added. "Nobody threatens our people. This is Dr. Park from the research station at Wolf. It's 359. We remember who helped us during the plague outbreak last year." More and more ships continued to arrive, each captain announcing their support. Within an hour, over 300 vessels had gathered around the colony, surrounding the 15 Draconis ships. "I do not understand," Jiho said to Nari. "All these people helping us? Because of what you did today," she replied. "You showed them that someone could ignore politics and bureaucracy to save lives. These are mostly civilian ships, miners, traders, researchers, colonists. They deal with emergencies all the time, but nobody in government ever listens to them." Commander Hiyagi was studying the tactical display with amazement. "This is the largest civilian fleet in recorded history. There are ships here from 40 different worlds. Most of them are not even armed," Kim Moran observed. "They do not need to be," Yuna said quietly. Everyone turned to look at the little girl, who was staring at the display with her two old eyes. "The dragon ships are scared now. They came to fight one person, not thousands." She was right. Commander Vactor's voice came through the communication system again, but this time he sounded less confident. "This does not change anything. We still demand custody of the false prince." Captain Liu of the Golden Dragon responded. "This man just saved 50,000 lives while you were sitting in space, planning attacks on civilians. Who sounds more like royalty to you?" Other voices joined in, creating a chorus of support for Jiho that grew louder by the minute.
Oh.
The Draconis. Commander tried to maintain his threatening tone, but it was clear that his position had become impossible. "You have 1 hour to withdraw from this system," Jiho said calmly. "After that, I cannot guarantee the safety of your ships. You dare threaten the Draconis Empire? I am not threatening anyone. But there are 300 ship captains here who are very angry about your threat to attack civilians. I do not think I could stop them even if I wanted to." There was a long silence. Then, one by one, the Draconis ships began moving away from the colony. "This is not over," Commander Vactor transmitted as his fleet retreated. Double quotes, "Yes it is," Jiho replied. "Because next time you threaten innocent people, there will be even more ships here to stop you." As the Draconis fleet disappeared into hyperspace, cheers erupted throughout the colony and across the civilian fleet. Jiho found himself surrounded by people congratulating him. But all he could focus on was Yuna, who was smiling up at him with obvious pride. "Papa did good," she said simply. "We all did good," he replied. Commander Hyoji put her hand on his shoulder. "What happens now?" Jiho looked around at the command center, filled with people from different worlds who had risked their lives to help. Strangers. Thought about his old apartment in Seoul, where his biggest worry had been debugging computer code. "Now we figure out how to make this galaxy a little bit better for everyone," he said. "Starting with our family?" Nari asked, moving to stand beside him. "Starting with our family," he agreed. Looking at Yuna, then at Hyeji and Nari, Jiho realized that saving the colony had been easy compared to what came next. Being a father, a husband, a leader, all at the same time was going to require skills he was still learning. but for the first time since this whole adventure began, was looking forward to the challenge. 6 months after the mining colony rescue, Jiho stood in front of a mirror in what had once been an ordinary conference room in Seoul. Now it was decorated with flowers and banners from dozens of different worlds, preparing for what the Galactic news services were calling the most important wedding in 3 centuries. "Stop fidgeting," Kim Moran said, adjusting his formal jacket for the 10th time. "Representatives from 200 worlds are watching." "That is exactly why I'm fidgeting," Jiho replied. The jacket was made from some kind of Centauri fabric that changed color slightly when he moved. He still preferred his old clothes, but Nari had insisted that their wedding needed to look appropriately royal. "Papa looks handsome," Yuna announced from her chair near the window. She was wearing a white dress that sparkled with tiny lights, her job as flower girl requiring her to look as formal as everyone else. "Thank you, sweetheart. You're ready to throw flower petals?" "I am ready to make them dance in the air," she said with a grin that reminded him she was no ordinary 5-year-old. The door opened, and Commander Hieji entered, wearing a blue uniform that was much fancier than her usual work clothes. Past 6 months, she had accepted the strange reality of their situation with typical military practicality. "The guests are ready," she announced, including 3 Galactic news crews and someone from the Historical Archives Division who wants to record everything for future study. "How do you feel about sharing custody with a princess and living in the strangest family arrangement in galactic history?" Jiho asked. "I feel like Yuna is happy, which is all that matters to me," Hyoji replied. "Besides, Nari's good for you. She keeps you from being too humble about the fact that you accidentally changed galactic politics forever." Through the window, Jiho could see the crowds gathered outside the building. What had started as a simple diplomatic facility had been transformed into something resembling a festival ground, with beings from across the galaxy celebrating together. "Are you nervous?" Hyoji asked. Terrified, Jiho admitted. 6 months ago, I was a programmer who had never been on a date. Now I am marrying a princess and becoming king of an alien species. You are also the father of the most powerful telepathic child in recorded history and the person who convinced 300 ship captains to work together against the Draconis Empire," Una added helpfully. "When you put it that way, it sounds even more terrifying." Kim Moran activated her communication device. "Princess Nare is ready. It is time to begin." The ceremony took place in the main hall, which had been expanded using some kind of space folding technology that made the room much larger inside than outside. Guests from different species sat together in ways that would have been unthinkable before Jiho's rescue of the mining colony. As he walked down the aisle, Jiho saw faces he recognized from the civilian fleet that had come to help during the Draconis crisis. Captain Liu of the Golden Dragon gave him a thumbs up. Dr. Park from Wolf 359 nodded respectfully. Dozens of other ship captains and colonists had traveled here just to witness the wedding of the human, who had shown them that practical solutions mattered more than political procedures. When Princess Nari appeared at the other end of the aisle, Jiho forgot about the crowds entirely. She wore a dress that seemed to be made of starlight, flowing and changing like liquid silver. Her hair was arranged in an elaborate style that incorporated both Centauri and human traditions. She carried flowers from her home world. "Look beautiful," he said when she reached him. "You look nervous," she replied with a smile. "I am nervous." "Good. If you were not nervous about marrying me, I would be insulted." The ceremony itself was a mixture of traditions from multiple species. Ambassador Kang Do-yun performed the Centauri rituals, while a Velhari elder, who had traveled from the far side of the galaxy, conducted the coronation that would make Jiho an official king. The human elements were simpler, but somehow more personal. When they reached the part where Yuna was supposed to throw flower petals, she decided to make them more interesting. The petals rose from her basket and began dancing through the air in complex patterns, forming shapes of stars and hearts and swirling galaxies that made the entire audience gasp with wonder. "Show off," Hyaji whispered, but she was smiling. "Daughter has flair," Nari said. "Our daughter?" Jiho asked. "If you are marrying me, then she becomes my stepdaughter. I take that responsibility seriously." The moment that surprised everyone, including Jiho, came during the exchange of vows. Instead of reading from prepared speeches written by diplomats, both he and Nari spoke from their hearts. "I promise to be your partner in all the adventures we have not imagined yet," Nari said, "and to help you remember that being extraordinary does not mean you have to stop being yourself. I promise to love you as much as I love our strange, wonderful family," Jiho replied, "and to never let politics become more important than the people we care about." When they kissed, cheers erupted from 200 different species, creating a sound unlike anything in galactic history: the coronation. Ceremony immediately afterward was more formal, but equally meaningful. Jiho knelt before the Vilhari elder, who placed a simple silver circlet on his head. "Do you swear to serve the Vilhari people and guide them with wisdom and compassion?" the elder asked in the ancient language. "I swear to serve all people with wisdom and compassion," Jiho replied in Korean, then repeated it in Vilhari. "And to never forget that leadership is about helping others, not commanding them." The elder smiled. "That is not the traditional response. I am not a traditional king. Perhaps that is exactly what we need." The celebration afterward lasted 3 days and included music, food, and entertainment from across the galaxy. Jiho found himself dancing with beings he could not have imagined 6 months earlier, while Yuna charmed everyone by making their drinks float and creating light shows with her telekinetic abilities. On the final evening, as the last guests were preparing to leave, Jiho stood on the balcony of their temporary residence with his new family. Nari was holding Yuna, who had finally worn herself out from showing off her powers. Hyaji stood beside them, looking more relaxed than he had ever seen her. "What happens now?" Hyaji asked. "Now we figure out how to be a family while running a galactic government," Nari said. "And how to raise a child who can read minds and predict the future," Jiho added. "And how to keep making the galaxy a better place for everyone," Yuna said sleepily from Nari's arms. "That sounds like a lot of work," Hyaji observed. "The best things usually are," Jiho replied. As they watched ships from different worlds departing for their home systems, Jiho thought about how much his life had changed. His old apartment in Seoul sat empty now, his programming job abandoned. For responsibilities he never could have imagined, but looking at his family he realized he would not change any of it. Not the stress, not the politics, not even the constant fear that he was not qualified for any of this. "Are you happy?" Nari asked quietly. "I am terrified, exhausted, confused, and completely out of my depth," Jiho said. "But yes, I am happy." "Good," Yuna mumbled, "'cause tomorrow we get another mystery package." "What?" Jiho asked, but his daughter was already asleep, leaving him to wonder what new adventure was waiting in his mailbox. Some things he had learned never changed. There was always another challenge, another crisis, another impossible situation that required him to think like a human in a galaxy full of aliens. He was looking forward to it a year later, as he sat in his home office working on programs that managed trade routes between star systems. Jiho kept a photo on his desk showing his wedding day. Next to it sat the original DNA kit box, a reminder of how curiosity and boredom had changed not just his life, but the entire galaxy. The mysterious package from the Andromedans had indeed arrived, just as Yuna had predicted. But that was a story for another day. For now, Jiho was content to be exactly what he had never planned to become: a father, a husband, a king, the human who had taught the galaxy that sometimes the best solutions came from the most unexpected places.